cynical than I yet way. Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. That's right, this is Michael Voss, and I am here on no less than the Exceptional Conservative Network. That's right. Sorry, I just caught myself. I'm trying to do three things at once and just threw myself off and made myself chuckle. But I'm Michael Voss, and this is no Soundbites allowed, and I know it's a late Sunday night. I'd love to be here with everybody a lot earlier, but didn't get a chance to do that. I want to go over something that's important, because we're seeing news come out, and I'm seeing the news reports yesterday in Portland. Antifa. I mean, really, does the left not have any concern? Do they have no shame? Are they not upset at this at all? Because they should be. They really, really should be. And I hope more people are upset about this than just the right, more than just conservatives, because there's just so much going on here, and there is so much that we should speak about here. And I hope we do get the chance to do so, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, because already in the news reports that are coming out from the New York Times, ABC News, AP, we're seeing that the story is being buried. It's being challenged and changed. That, this is all about the right and the extremism of the right. And this is being blamed on President Trump. But a lot of people don't know what's actually going on here. What is really the situation? And the answer to that is we have the far left, the fringe left, Antifa, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT, Citizen Action, Indivisible New York. These groups, which are interchangeable, and in my experience, have members that are in every single one of those. So I've seen members of PLOT who are members of Citizen Action, who are members of Indivisible New York, and possibly rumored to be members of Antifa. These people are all in the same groups. They're the same people. They're the same fringe of the Democratic Party. And they aren't Democrats. And if you ask them, they'll tell you, they're not Democrats. They are progressives. These are the Democratic Socialists. These are the people at the furthest of the left. And time and time and time again, we keep seeing the same thing with these people. That they are out there and they have one key purpose. You don't get to do what, you don't get to have freedom. You don't get to express yourself. They get to express for you. They get to tell you what you can say, what you cannot say. They get to tell you how you get to, how much fear you get to have, because they like or dislike what you're doing. And that's kind of terrifying in a big way, because that's not the American principles. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And I have to imagine most people, most Americans disagree with this. And I have a big question about any organization where the members run around actively hiding who they are because they're afraid of people finding out what they're doing or holding them responsible for what they have done. I've seen that in my region in New York State, where members of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow actively refuse to allow members of the press, members of law enforcement to be present at their meetings, that they have secret meetings that you can only go to by invitation, that they have meetings that are expressly meant to organize and create something. And since I've never been invited to those meetings, and I never will be invited to those meetings, I can't say exactly. But I have a great deal of question here when you have an organization that acts only in secrecy. And when we see their actions, we see very often violence. We see suppression of freedom. We see totalitarian and authoritarian actions. And they claim to be on the left. They claim to be the heroes, that they're taking care of people. They're champions. They think that they should be lauded for their actions. And I have to say to myself, and I say to everyone else, why? You're a masked vigilante at the best. And at the worst, you're a masked criminal, taking violent action more often than not. And people should be able to celebrate you for some reason. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that should ever be the case. And I think we need to address them honestly. But let me run through what I'm talking about here. Let me give you facts, not emotions, not my opinion, facts. What we know for a fact is that with ABC News in 2017, we had the mayor, and I'm bringing this up from ABC News, we had mayors who were saying that Antifa is a gang, that they are dangerous. And I want to get the story so that I can get this right for you. And I'm just waiting for it to pull up here. We've had, over time, Antifa consistently making attacks. I'll give you a great example. There was the attack in New York City. And that was in 2018, July 12th of 2018. Antifa went out and they were destroying property. They were threatening Republicans in Manhattan and saying that they're not done, that they're coming back. And these very same individuals, after attacking New York City and vandalizing property, said they were coming out to other parts like central New York, which I believe they already here. And they said they would be destroying that. And we reported it. And I have to say, we got lucky in upstate New York because they weren't visibly, violently here. But that doesn't mean they weren't around and that their influence isn't being heard. Because Antifa is dangerous. Now, I said to you that this is a dangerous group of people. Let me be very clear. That's not me saying that. That's the mayor of Berkeley in 2017, August 28th of 2017, almost 2 years ago, that the mayor of Berkeley was saying that Antifa is a gang. And here it is, his quote, "I think we should classify them as a gang," said Arguin. "They come dressed in uniforms. They have weapons, almost like a militia. And I think we need to think about that in terms of our law enforcement approach." That's something very important. I think we are going to have to think about the big picture, about what is the strategy on how we are going to deal with these violent elements on the left. That tells you something. You know what? You don't have to believe me. That's a Democratic mayor of a Democratic city in a Democratic state who's saying these people are thugs. They're gangsters. So are you surprised 2 years later, after continued violence, not just in Berkeley, but in Portland, in New York City, around the country, that the president, Donald Trump, would say, as he did, that a major consideration is being given to naming Antifa an organization of terror. Portland is being watched very closely. Hopefully the mayor will be able to properly do his job. That was at 7 a.m. from President Trump. Before 12 hours were up, there were people who were going to hospitals. People were injured. There was chaos in the streets. Antifa had taken over property sections of the city of Portland. And they were violent. Very, very violent. Let's look at what happened with one of the reporters, a well-known reporter, Andy Ngo. And I know I mispronounced his last name. Andy Ngo was one of the individuals that was there. And I'm just going to pick up in the middle of his coverage. And you can go to his website and to his Twitter site, and you'll see this for yourself. But I want you to see.
Fuck Nazis! Fuck Nazis! Enjoy the milkshake! Fuck Nazis!
Where the fuck you going, you pussies? It's the same fucking thing every time. You just fucking run away back to the fucking trailer. Fuck you all. What a bunch of pussies.
Okay, I apologize for the language that's being used, but this is reporting of news. This is the news. This is what Antifa does. Throwing of the milkshakes, insults, curses, a crowd, a mob mentality, justified only because they have superior numbers, of an individual walking away, holding a flag. Now, was that gentleman a bad guy? Maybe. Maybe not. There's no way to know. Because they're not reacting to him violently. He wasn't trying to get into a fight. He wasn't trying to do anything that would outwardly show there was some kind of conflict. They weren't fighting him. He was walking away. He happened to be white. He happened to have an American flag. And a day that Antifa didn't want to see white people or people with American flags. And we see that this wasn't new. This was something that was going on the whole day. And again, you can go to Andy Ngo's website and you'll be able to see it for yourself, assuming that, you know, the internet will allow me to actually record this. But there are lots of events, lots and lots of events that were going on, where Antifa was stealing a hat, that they were threatening children, that they had knocked out individuals and continued to surround those individuals and to threaten and threaten those individuals in the worst way possible. I can't even play the rest of the language that's being used here of individuals that they beat on over and over. And I'm not talking about, look at the crowds. Look at the crowds that are here. This is the Antifa crowd chasing down 1, 2 people at a time. That tells you something. Look at them hiding their faces. Look at what they're doing here. This is Antifa. And the police ran away. The Portland police ran away. They put people in hospital. And if you think I'm exaggerating about that somehow this isn't exactly what happened there. No, Mike, people didn't go to the hospital. Oh, yes, they did. Oh, yes, they did. Because even in the AP, where they really tried to not mention Antifa's name at all, but we had to see that as of, and in quoting the article from the AP, that at least 13 people arrested in Oregon protest, as of early afternoon, most of the right-wing groups had left the area via a downtown bridge. Police officers used bikes and riot gear to keep black-clad, helmet and mask-wearing anti-fascist protesters, otherwise known as Antifa, from following them. Okay, that says it all right there. The protesters from the Proud Boys, the right, the alt-right, and I'm not saying they're good people. I'm not saying they're bad people. They held a protest, which is their right as Americans. They held a protest, and they left. And Antifa, in large crowds, armed, came after them. And they came after them in mobs. And the left is very happy about that. They're very proud of themselves about that. That they think they did something great there. And I have to tell you, I don't think it's great. You know, I don't think it was great when they did it in New York City. As I'm showing you just a quick Yahoo search, which isn't the best engine in the world, and you can still find it in a heartbeat, that Antifa was vandalizing Republican headquarters, that they threatened to be coming back. These aren't people who are promoting anything other than violence. Other than the violence to say that if you don't do what we want, we will hurt you. You can call that a bully. You can call that an authoritarian. You can call that totalitarian. Or you can call it what it is, the fringe left. And this is what they are promising to Americans, that you should become more of a progressive. This is the mantra of the Democratic Party right now, that we need to become more socialist. We need to become more progressive, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like Bernie Sanders, like Elizabeth Warren. That we need to go further and further to the left. But when you look at people who are on that fringe left already, you get Antifa. You get Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT. You get Citizen Action, and you get Indivisible New York. Individuals who, maybe not individually, but as organizations, seem to have absolutely no problem using violence to silence those that they don't like, to scream and shout to silence those they don't like, to act in secrecy so that they can plot and work out ways to attack people they don't like. And that's not freedom. Yes, the KKK should have the right to be able to have a speech. And you have the right to have a protest of that speech. But that doesn't mean you get the right to attack them any more than they have the right to attack you. Whether it's a mob or an individual, they don't have that right. That's not how America works. And just because you don't agree doesn't give you a right to be able to do whatever you want because you think you're right. Antifa thinks, they feel like they are right. They feel like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They feel that they are morally correct. And so they are justified to use any violence they want. Let me ask you, if black conservatives went around beating down members of the left, which will never happen, but if they did that, would they be justified? Would the left turn around? Would you hear Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Would you hear Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar? Would you hear Kamala Harris? Would you hear these people, Cory Booker? Would you hear them say, well, that's okay because they're black, they can do that? No, you wouldn't. They'd say the right was absolutely wrong. That members of the right who went to violence to enforce their views were wrong. And they would be correct. Why isn't it correct when it's the left? Why isn't it correct when we hear members of the left stand up like the mayor of Berkeley and say that this is gang activity. When we hear the president say, this is terrorist activity. And these are the same people who are saying, we need to have domestic terrorism laws. I want to hear from Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is actively trying to pass the Hate Crime Domestic Terrorism Act in New York right now. And his goal is to take away everyone's firearms. But let me ask you, if you're talking about domestic terrorism and you're asking the Congress to define domestic terrorism, how does Antifa not fall under that description? Why aren't members of the left denouncing the violence of mobs attacking children, of mobs attacking elderly couples, of knocking people unconscious so that they have to go to a hospital, of standing over and chasing down people and intimidating them with their numbers and their violent actions? Why aren't Democrats denouncing this? Because the Democrats are not the progressives. They're not part of the fringe left. So why don't they denounce it? Because they think it's going to get them a vote? I mean, really, they think this will get them a vote. Is that worth it? I don't know. I don't think that's worth it. I don't think it's worth it to go out there and enact violence against another American just because you don't like what they have to say. I get it all the time. People come up to me and they threaten me all the time. They threaten me on social media all the time, especially on social media, because people are very brave when it's over the internet. Not so much in person. But let me ask you something. How does that convince anyone? How is that a winning argument? That's just an application of force. And the people who have the greatest amount of application of force can win that. That's just a fight. That doesn't mean you're right. That doesn't mean you're good. That doesn't mean you're on the side of the angels. In fact, it might mean you're on the side of the devils. There's a problem. There is a major problem with this. Why won't the left address their own problem? This is their party. They're trying to run towards these people. The DNC chairman, Tom Perez, is saying that we need to become more like the Democratic Socialists, that we need to go and embrace and become the progressive fringe left. And in saying that, the question has to be, you want us to use violence to silence those that we don't feel are the right answer, that someone can give the right answer. And because we don't like it, because we don't feel like it's a good answer, we can use violence against them? Is this what they're really saying? Is this what the 2020 election's about? Because that is in the backdrop of the 2020 election. That they will use. We've heard Kamala Harris say already that she would use the full force of the government to take away the rights and property of American citizens when it comes to gun control. We've heard many of the members, Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker, many of these people who are running for president on the Democratic ticket, who aren't necessarily progressives, maybe, that are saying they'll use full force to take the rights and the property from American citizens. How is that different than Antifa and what they say? That they will use force to silence people. I have to tell you, folks, this is troubling. This is terrifying. This is not a positive. That shouldn't be what America is about. That isn't what we're supposed to be about. We should be able to have a conversation. I don't know how many times I get to hear from members of Antifa, the fringe left, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, Plot, Indivisible, Citizen Action, and the fringe left, which are a minority of Democrats. And I don't know how often I get to hear them tell me about how evil I am because I say that I disagree because I'm a black Republican, which automatically means I'm some kind of evil in their minds. 800 videos later, 2 million words later, I have never once advocated violence in my life. But they seem to have no problem advocating violence against me. They seem to have no problem trying to intimidate me with violence. And the rest of the left seem to let it go. It's okay. Why? If I were a gay male, would it be okay to do that? If I'm a black male, is it okay to do that? How is it not racist to do that? According to the terms of the fringe left themselves. Because the people who are doing this almost always are white. I mean, take a look at what we saw from Andy Ngo, who is an Asian. But let's look at what he's showing off there. Let's see who are the members of Antifa. Because when you look, you see the gentleman who's hurt there? That image? Okay? You know who's hurt? That's not a white man. But who did it? Look at these guys. Are there a bunch of black people in there? No, there aren't. No, they aren't. Those are all members of Antifa swarming around a child and a man trying to defend her. These are members of Antifa. Look at them. Antagonizing a police officer doing his job, trying to protect them and the public. And you see that crowd? Yeah, there's that one Asian guy, Hispanic guy, attacking the police officer verbally. Another guy just hanging out and watching it happen. He's got no problem. He's a member of the press. Maybe. He's taking photos. But look at the numbers. Here's a woman. She's a member of Antifa, threatening police officers with baton, taunting them. Let's go back to this gentleman. Look at everyone around them. Now imagine if that was a black man carrying a flag, and then all of a sudden, members of Antifa started doing this. Those white members of Antifa started doing this to black people in a bus. Let me ask you, would that be okay? Would it be, is it different because someone was black or whether they were white? Because quite honestly, it shouldn't matter because they're Americans. And someone just expressing their point of view shouldn't have to deal with that kind of violence. Not in America. Not in the United States of America. That's not what we're supposed to be about. But that is what Antifa is about. And more, that's what the Democratic Party is about. And I have to say, that terrifies me. Locally, in my region, I know of Democrats who were threatened by members of the far left. That they had their lives threatened, that they were physically threatened. Members who were elected were threatened. Yeah, I get to hear all of that. And I've seen it once or twice, where these individuals were threatening someone and acting in a threatening manner to another Democrat, because that Democrat happened to be white. And they didn't like what they were saying at that moment. Really? Is this what America's about? I know this is what Antifa is about. And they wrap it around the flag. They wrap it around, not the flag. They don't like the American flag. They don't like the system of government we have right now, the freedoms that most people have right now, according to their own documentation, according to their own philosophy. No. They think they're some kind of heroes because they get to choose who they define as a fascist. And once they define you by that title, it's no holds barred. They can do anything they want to you because they feel like you're a fascist. Do you not, maybe it's just me, but how is this not terrifying to people? I know it's late at night on a Sunday. Today is the 18th. It's 10:30 at night. Most people are going to sleep or getting ready to go to sleep so you can go to work tomorrow. But imagine that while you're going to sleep, there is some group of individuals who didn't like what you had to say today. And tomorrow, they're going to come with a mob to harass you, to physically intimidate you, to physically assault you, because they just didn't like what you had to say. And the media will be okay with that because they agree with the ideology of the people attacking you. That should be terrifying. And I don't care if you're left, right, center. It doesn't matter if you're a conservative, if you're a libertarian, if you're a Democrat, you're a Republican and a conservative. It doesn't matter. Because if someone only needs to justify that they don't like what you had to say, they don't like what you believe, and that's all the justification they need to enact violence, then everyone is in danger. Everyone in America is subject to this threat. Because tomorrow, you're the person who they're going to come after. Because you don't have the right view. You didn't say, yes, you agree with them when you should have. You weren't ready to join them. That's just, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's because I'm tired. Because I got to work in the morning, just like anyone else. But I'm looking at this news from all the media sources, and I am not seeing anything that makes me believe that Antifa did anything but attack innocent older people who expressed an opinion for the mere fact that they didn't like the opinion, and the people who said it were more often than not white. You know, look at the New York Times. Their article, Antifa and far-right groups face off in Portland. But if you look at the article and you listen to what was being said in the article, it's Antifa that was the aggressor. It's Antifa that was going out there. It's Antifa that had the melee, as they did on June 29th, and attacked conservative writers because they were assaulting them in their black-clad clothing. Not that the New York Times wants to say that Antifa is bad, that Antifa is out there committing violence, but they can't deny it either because it's true. But they want to support that. No, because they're progressives, you just don't understand. How do you not understand violence of individuals who would use violence to silence someone else? I've said it 3 times now. I'll say it again because it needs to sink into people's minds. This isn't about convincing someone that you may have the wrong idea. You can have a conversation with me and tell me you disagree with me on abortion. You can have a conversation with me and say you disagree with me on gun control. And we can have that conversation. It's entirely different when you say, I'm going to use violence to silence you because I don't like your opinion. That's not convincing me of anything. That's not winning over other people to your side. That's pure and simple a threat. You're using physical force. There is no difference between that than Soviet Russia, China, North Korea, Venezuela. There is no difference. And there is no heroes about that. That isn't a victory for anyone. No. That is fascism. That is authoritarianism. That is totalitarianism. And we should recognize it for that. We should call it out for that. Because it's horrible that any American would think that the use of brute force is the right answer to a conversation. But maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think I don't get it. Maybe you think, hey, Mike, you just don't understand the issue at hand. Maybe you can explain to me. Maybe if you're a member of Antifa, maybe you're a member of the fringe left, like Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow or Citizen Action or Indivisible New York. Maybe you have this idea and you can explain to me why violence is the answer. Why you should be allowed to be violent when I'm having a discussion. That you are enabled to use violence to silence my voice because you don't like it. Please, if someone wants to explain that and tell me how I'm not understanding that, how I'm misunderstanding this, how that's the correct answer, that violence is the answer to speech, that if I'm having a conversation, if I'm trying to engage a conversation and to discuss an issue, that the proper answer to my question, why am I wrong, is to attack me or anyone else or attack people for listening to me. Please, if you can explain that, I'd love to hear it. And maybe that's why the members of Antifa use such great secrecy. And I know there is a cell of Antifa in my town that I'm in right now, in Binghamton, New York, central New York. There is a cell of Antifa here. They entered into this area at the same time that the Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow entered this area. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. But I know they're there. There are people who believe we know who some of the members are, although it's a secret organization that hides themselves. And in politics, why do you need to hide yourself? I mean, why doesn't anyone ever ask that? Why do you need to hide your face if you're just expressing a political point of view? No one has to like your political point of view, but that doesn't mean you need to hide. And if you have to hide yourself, if you can't say, I believe this, why should anyone else believe you? If you can only say it behind a mask with a baseball bat, why should anyone think that you're right or that you're serious? You're just a thug. And you should be called that thug. And you should never be taken seriously because it's not a serious position. What you are is just a violent criminal. A violent criminal acting on suppressing people. And that's just wrong. I mean, that's my point of view. You may think I'm wrong. You may think, Mike, no, you just don't get it. There is a better way to understand this. It makes sense somehow. Maybe it makes sense to someone. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it makes sense to someone else. That, the way to that this kind of violence makes sense to somebody. Because you don't like the t-shirt they're wearing. You don't like the hat they're wearing. So you're just going to attack them. That you're just going to attack them. This one person versus dozens of people. As this person's trying to defend themselves and get away. No, it's okay that these masked villains are coming after them. Yeah, dozens of people on any one person. And yeah, some of them are black, like this gentleman, threatening news reporters, threatening how they're going to get hurt as soon as the police disappear because he's black and he feels like he's right. Look at this. As they cheer happily for the violence they enacted on someone who's going to a hospital. That's the police trying to take someone's body, take someone out of the area. Look at that man, barely able to walk. And if you follow the coverage, he was knocked out earlier. And he's older, in his 60s. This is the violence. Look at this. Look at the violence. Does that sound like a winning argument? Does that make you feel like there should be abortion, gun control, that we should have a basic income? Does that make you feel like, hey, I won the argument? I'm asking this of the fringe left because someone has to. Does that kind of violence make anyone feel like, hey, yeah, they've got the right answer? I need to join that so that I can attack people who don't agree with me, so that I can physically assault people. And God forbid if any of those people were to defend themselves, well, they're wrong. They're evil. They have to be evil. How dare they fight back and defend themselves from the assault of Antifa? I don't know. It's oh my God. It's so aggravating. It's so insane and stupid that we would have people who believe, and I'm just checking out the comments and notes here, but that we would have people who would think that that's the only right answer. You know, I'm tired. It's Sunday night. I got to get ready for work, but I wanted to share this with you because this is crazy. What we saw in Portland is what we saw in Berkeley, is what we've seen in New York City. This is something that we've seen everywhere that Antifa and Black Lives Matters and Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow and the rest of the fringe left, everywhere they go, we see them using force. Not an argument, not a winning argument, not a better answer to the questions that face this nation. Purely intimidation and violence everywhere they go. They cow people into submission because of the force they're willing to use. They enact terror. Is Antifa a terrorist organization? In my point of view, yes, absolutely. Because they don't have conversations. They have force. And they use that force to silence people, to attack people. That's not the American way. And they don't care about America. They don't want to be Americans. They want to be communists. They want to be socialists. They want to destroy the government that exists right now because they feel like they have the right answer. And if you don't feel like they do, well, then they can beat it into you. And that's what we've always fought in America. We have always fought around the world against people who say, I will just beat the right answer into you. We fought it in our own nation in Civil War. We fought it overseas twice in the World War. Are we always right? Not necessarily. Are we a perfect nation? No such thing exists. Are we perfect people? No such thing exists. But more often than not, we want to give people the freedom to be able to express themselves and to disagree and to say, I have a different idea, and to win others over through the value of their argument and their solutions. That's not Antifa. That's not the fringe left. And when we look at the 2020 election, we're hearing more and more of that fringe left in the debates. How they're going to use force to take away your property. They're going to use force to take away your rights. That if you disagree, you must be a racist. You must be a sexist. You must be an ism. You must be homophobic or various degrees of degradation. You can't be a regular person with a different idea or a different set of values. No, you must be a horrific monster. Because that's all Antifa can go with. Because if anyone that they have beaten upon, anyone that they have attacked with their mobs, if anyone that the fringe left has gone after to silence is a human being, then they are monsters. They are evil and wrong. And they know it. So they can't be monsters if they just make sure, you know what, I don't agree with you, so you must be a monster. You must be a sexist. You must be a racist. You must be a homophobe. You must be a transphobe. You've got to be a something because I don't agree with you. And I've heard this said. I have had the comments in tweets, in texts, in Facebook posts over and over again saying, well, something is wrong with me because I don't agree with them and they need to silence me. And we see it in Portland, and we've seen it in Berkeley, and we've seen it in New York City, and we've seen it across the country. That's their answer. You must be evil because you don't agree with Antifa. You don't agree with the fringe left. And that gives them the right to do anything they want to you. No, I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that. I do not believe in that. I think that is wrong. I think most Americans think that is wrong. That's why Antifa is a fringe of the far left. They are a very small group of people, but they are a very vocal and very violent group of people. And a lot of people don't like to confront violence. They don't like to confront mobs. They don't like to be outnumbered or feel like they're outnumbered, because I don't think the American people are. I don't think the regular moderate or regular Democrats, I don't think they're outnumbered. They're being just shouted down. They're being intimidated by someone saying, I'll be violent if you say something. The Democrats, for their part, need to say something. They need to step up. And anyone should. When violence is being used or threatened to silence others, we need to speak up. That's why we fought World War I, why we fought World War II. That's why we had, well, part of the reason why we had the Civil War. Because violence does not make someone right. Violence doesn't silence people's thoughts. Because human beings have an intrinsic birthright to be able to speak freely and to have different opinions and different ideas. It's called the First Amendment, folks. It's not a strange new idea. It may be strange in the world that we get to use that we get to have and exercise the First Amendment, the right to free speech, to not have to fear a government attacking us. But at the same time, that government, its number one duty is to protect the people from those who would use violence against us because we are exercising our freedom. The mayor of Portland failed the public. The police chief of Portland failed the public when they walked away from confrontations where Antifa was trying to threaten individuals. And for every person who was injured and hurt because Antifa was allowed to go and assault people because the police walked away, that's on the mayor. That's on the police chief. But it's also on every single Democrat, whether you're part of the far left or not, for not speaking up and denouncing this violence. And any of the Democratic presidential candidates that can't stand up and say to the nation very clearly that they denounce violence being used to silence anyone, they have a problem. And the Democratic Party has a problem if none of them are willing to do that. Because they all should be able to do that. They all should have already done that. The violence happened on Saturday. It's 10:52 on Sunday. Why haven't they denounced it already? They should have. And that's not political, that's American. Because it's our right. Our right to be able to disagree. They should be standing up for that. Instead, they're willing to excuse it. We should all be terrified of that. Folks, I hope everyone's going to have a great Monday. I hope we're going to have a great week. I hope that Antifa will not be in your town trying to threaten you and trying to silence you. I hope that you're not going to be you will not have next week the fringe left trying to force you into submission online, in social media, or in person. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I hope you will never have to face that. But until then, let's remember, together as Americans, we can all speak up and say, I don't agree. But if you think I'm wrong, if you think I have missed something, please let me know in the comments. Tell me how I misunderstood something. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I just don't know the article. Maybe I just don't get it. Let me understand. Why am I wrong? Why is it right for Antifa and the far left, the fringe left, to use violence to silence people that they don't like, that they just don't agree with? And why should anyone else not be fearful or use the same tactics? Please let me know. Because I think most people, I think 99% of everyone on the internet, if they heard this, if they hear this, they'll agree with me. But we'll see. Folks, again, I want you to have a great week. I want you to have a peaceful week. I want you to enjoy yourselves. And I will be back very soon. And please, if you like it, like, share, and definitely subscribe on YouTube or any other medium. I love you. Be safe. Talk to you soon.